Hello guys, and welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for stopping by. If you are a returning subscriber, thank you so much for your consistent support. And if this is your first time stopping by my channel, you are highly welcome and thank you so much for clicking. So on today's video, I'm going to be showing you how to make a palazzo pant, and I have drafted out my basic pant pattern, as you can see. So I have a video on how to make this on my channel. You have to watch that before you watch this. I'm going to link it in the description and on this video as well. So I use this pattern to draft out this markings you're seeing on my pattern paper. So I drafted it out. As you can see, it's exactly the same. I drafted it out without the seam allowance. So what you are seeing here is the basic. So right here is the hip line, here is the crotch line, and this line is the thigh line. On this line I have the knee line, and right here I have the ankle line, which is the full length of the pants. Okay, so now I'm going to be modifying this pattern to get our palazzo pants. So first you want to go over to the crotch line and extend your measurement by 0.75 inches. And on that point, you are going to go down by half an inch. So what we are trying to do is to get the crotch for the palazzo pants. So what you want to do after doing that is to connect that half an inch down to the crotch line, like so. After doing that, you're going to go over to the ankle line of this pant, that is the full length. So because it's a palazzo pant, you want it to be longer than the normal trouser that you wear. So here is the ankle line, and I'm going to be extending this to make it longer. Okay, so I'm going to be adding extra 7 inches to my normal pattern. So I'm going to add 7 inches because I want mine to be extremely long. So this depends on you. You can use 4. From 3 to 7 is okay. So after that, I'm going to mark this line downwards. I'm going to transfer the ankle measurement I have on the original pattern. Mine is 5 inches, so I'm going to transfer that to the 7 inches which I extended this point to, and I'm going to draw a straight line down to the new ankle line I have, and I'm going to square this up just like this. After doing that, I'm going to mark the grain line down to the full length, and that is the new ankle line we have. So after doing that as well, you see that this is my former ankle line, and now this is the 7 inches extension which I marked. So after that, I'm going to widen the leg of this trouser. So I'm going to be adding 2 inches extra to my pattern. Okay, so you can decide whatever you want. You can decide to use 2 inches, 3 inches, 4 inches. All right, but you just have to know that the higher the number, the wider the leg of your palazzo. So I don't want mine to be too wide, neither do I want it to be too slim, so I'm using 2 inches extension for mine. Okay, so after marking that, what I want to do is to connect that 2 inches I just marked down to the crotch line I made for the palazzo, like this. So I'm just going to make a straight line down to that crotch line, and for the other side I'm going to make a straight line down to the in between the thigh line and the crotch line. Okay, that's because I want mine to be a little bit fitted at the upper part. So if you want, you can drag your measurements to the hip line, but I want mine to stop in between the crotch line and the thigh line. Okay, so if you don't want yours to be fitted at the upper part, you can drag your 2 inches measurement down to the hip line. Okay, but I'm going to be stopping mine at the in between the crotch and the thigh line. Okay, so this is where I want mine to stop. Okay, so I'm just going to connect it now and show you what I mean. Okay, So after marking it, this is what I have. Like I explained, you can drag your measurement to the crotch line or the hip line, but you see where mine ended, in between the crotch and the thigh line. So after doing that, what I want to do now is to square up the lines I have at the ankle line. Okay, so I'm just going to connect the points like so, and as you can see, our palazzo is already formed. What I want to do next is to go ahead and add my seam allowances all around the pattern. I'll add my seam allowance on the waistline, on the ankle line. So this point you are seeing here, in case you are wondering, is the pocket opening. So if you don't want yours to have a pocket opening like this, I'm just going to show you what you need to do. So if you don't want yours to have a pocket opening, you're just going to draw this straight down to the waistline, and you're going to square it up like so. Okay, so this is what you should have if you don't want this pocket. But me, I want mine to have a pocket. That's why I use the pencil to show you this, because I'm going to be needing my pocket. Okay, all right, so now I'm going to go ahead and add my seam allowance. So my seam allowances have been added. As you can see, I used a contrasting color so you can see what I mean. So the blue marker you're seeing is my seam allowance. So what I want to do next is to go ahead and cut this pattern out. Okay, so on the ankle line, I added 2 inches hem allowance. Okay, but all around the pattern I added half an inch seam allowance, as you can clearly see. So I'm just going to cut this out. All right, so right here, if you are using your pocket, you're going to, if you are not using a pocket, you are just going to cut straight. But right now I need the pocket, so I'm just going to cut right through the pocket, just like this. Okay, but if you don't want it, you're just going to cut straight. I hope that is clear enough. So after cutting it, this is what I have. As you can see, the palazzo pants is already looking very gorgeous and beautiful. It's already formed. So I'm going to set this apart, set it aside, and then we are going to go over to the back panel. Okay, so this is the back panel that I traced out using my previous video, my pattern, my trouser video. Like I said, if you haven't watched that video, you have to watch it before watching this to totally understand. So I traced up this on the new pattern without any kind of seam allowance like I did for the front. So now I would modify this pattern to form the palazzo for it. So I traced down to the ankle line, as you can see. So here I have the waistline, the hip line, the crotch line. So this right here is the thigh line, the knee line, and of course we have the full length, which is the ankle line. Okay, so now I would modify this pattern to form our palazzo. Okay, so first thing you want to do is to go ahead and extend your crotch line. Okay, so on the crotch line, I'm going to mark 1 inch extension. I'm going to add 1 inch. Okay, so I'm just going to use my straight ruler to mark that out like so, so it's visible for you. And on that point, I'm going to go down by half an inch. Okay, so we are going to leave this right here and we'll come back to it later. So on the ankle line, remember that for the front panel we extended our length by 7 inches, so we are going to do the same to this, and I'm going to draw down the markings like this. So here is the 7 inches extension that I have. There's that same way I did it for the front, so this is what I have. Okay, so this becomes our new ankle line for the back panel. So after that, I'm going to widen this trouser, this pattern, by 2 inches. You have to use the exact measurement you used for the front for the back as well. So I'm extending this wideness with 2 inches on both sides, and I'm just going to draw that markings out. So I'm going to extend the ankle line with 2 inches on each side, just like so. So after doing that, I'm going to connect this point to the crotch line that I made, that half an inch that I came down with. I'm going to connect it to it like so. Okay. So after connecting that, I'm just going to cover the crotch line like the way I did for the front. So I'm just going to connect that point down to the crotch line like so. Okay, so this becomes the back crotch for this palazzo pant. And now I'm going to connect this other line to the points in between the crotch line and the tie line like I did for the front. As you can see, I've already done that. So what I want to do now is seam allowance that I have added, as you can see. So I added half an inch seam allowance all around and 2 inches hem allowance to the ankle line. So what I'm going to do next is, okay, I'm just showing you this. All right, so I'm going to cut this and set it aside while I show you how to make the waistband. Okay, so you're going to grab your pocket facing. Again, I'm referring to that video, so you have to watch that video. So I'm placing my pocket facing inside the front panel like this. What I want to do now is to get the pockets, the waistband. Okay, so you're going to place it like this, tape it down, and then you're going to decide the length you want your waistband to be. For me, I want my waistband to be 2 inches, so I measure 2 inches and I'm folding the 2 inches I want for the waistband in like this. Okay, so that is what I'm doing. And what I want to do next is to fold the dart in. As you know, the waistband is not going to have a dart, so what we want to do is to pretend like the dart is not there. So I'm just going to fold it in like so, and then I'm also going to tape it down. So what I want to do next is to grab a fresh pattern paper, place it below the waist like this, and I'm going to grab my pencil and I'm going to trace this off. So you have to start tracing from the main marking, not from the seam allowance. Okay, so I'm just tracing this off like this. All right, so after doing that, I'm going to remove the trouser pattern and I'm going to extend the waistband. Like I said, I need this to be 2 inches, so I'm marking 2 inches upwards like this. All right, I'm just going to make 2 inches marking on this fresh pattern paper like so. So after doing that, I'm just going to connect the points I made. All right, so I'm just connecting the points like so. So I'm just going in with my marker so you see what I'm doing. Okay, so after marking that, what I want to do is to add my seam allowance. I'm not going to add seam allowance on the center front. Okay, so I'm just going to add seam allowance on the other 3 sides like so, half an inch seam allowance. So I'm just going to connect the points I just made for my seam allowance like so. So this is the center front and I'm not adding any seam allowance to it because I'm cutting it on fold. So I'm just going to add a half an inch seam allowance on the other part, leaving the center front because I'm going to cut it on fold. All right, so I'm just going to square this part out. Okay, so I'm going to indicate that this is supposed to be cut on fold just so I don't forget. Okay, so the center front, like I said, will not have any seam allowance. All right, so for the back, I did the same thing, folded it in and I marked out the the waistband, the exact same thing I did for the front. So as you can see here, this is what I have for the back. I'm just going to use my marker to go in just so you see what I'm doing clearly. So I traced it off and I'm going in with my marker. So I'm just going to indicate that I'm cutting this on fold as well. So don't add your seam allowance to the center front and the center back. Okay, so this is what I have. Right now I'm going to go ahead and cut the waistband for the back out. All right, so here I have the waistband for the front and the back panel like this. Okay, so we are cutting both the front and the back on fold. So here I have the pocket and the pocket facing. So you have to also refer to my other video to understand how this was made. Okay, so for this I'm going to need two. I'm going to need two of each of this, one for the facing and one for the main waistband. All right, so now I'm going to show you how to make the zip, just in case you want to add a zipper to your pants. So here I have the front and the back panel. So in case you want to use your zipper fly, the pattern I made before has a zipper fly. So all you have to do is when you are tracing off this, you also trace off the zipper fly on the new pattern paper. Okay, so if you want to have a zipper fly in front, you trace this off from the old pattern, transfer it to your new pattern just the way it is on the other pattern. Okay, so that is just it. So in case you want your zipper to be at the back, I want my zipper to be at the side. I'm going to use my seam allowance for my zipper, but if you want your zipper to be at the back, you're just going to grab a new fresh pattern paper like this. This is supposed to be together before cutting out, but I just want to show you how to do this. So you grab a fresh pattern paper and then you place it underneath your main pattern like so, and on the top line from your seam allowance, actually not from your seam allowance, from the main marking, okay, you're going to go down by 7 inches or 8 inches, okay, depending on how long you want your zipper to be. So mine, I just marked 7 inches, and I'm going to mark half an inch outwards like so. All right, half an inch is enough to add your zipper. So I'm just going to connect that point like this. So from that center back, I'm marking half an inch outward like so. Okay, so after marking that, okay, just note that you have to tape your pattern paper to the zipper fly you're trying to, the zipper extension you're trying to create. So I just did that, and I'm going to connect the half an inch points I just made. All right, like so, and I'm just going to square up that point at the end of the zipper extension I'm creating. So after doing that, I'm just going to curve it out to form that curve the zipper normally have. Okay, so this is just how it is for you to draft your zipper in case you want your zipper at the back. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is to cut it out. Like I said, I don't want my zipper at the back, I want my zipper at the side of this pant, and I'm going to use my seam allowance to add my zipper. But in case you want yours to have your zipper at the back, this is what you should do. Okay, so after connecting the points and cutting it out, this is what I have. So this is the extension that you use to add your zipper to your palazzo pants. Okay, so just this is what you have. Like I said, you should cut this together with your pattern instead of cutting and then adding another extension. All right, so I'm going to be using this fabric for this to cut this palazzo pants. Okay, I'm going to use one for one leg and one for the other leg. You will see when I make it, but because I don't want this video to be too long, I'm going to make a part 2 of this palazzo pants video. So the next video is going to be the making of the cutting and stitching of this palazzo pant. Thank you so much for watching this video, Until I see you again in my next video, I love you. Bye.